Our Advent word today is the word prune, and we find that word pruning all over the scriptures when we think of the images of the vine and the branches of branches being pruned off and others being grafted in, and this image of pruning back so that fresh blossoms can grow. All of this is part of our growth as disciples. All of this is part of the building of the kingdom. When I think about pruning, the first thing that came to my mind was my own experience with pruning. I'm not very good at it, to be honest with you. I can kill artificial plants, probably. My extent of gardening and caring for plants is taking this tree behind me here, as you can see, is plastic, and taking it outside about once a year or so, spinning it around under the hose and getting the dust off. I can handle that, and so far it's stayed alive pretty well. But real plants, not so much. And I remember back in 7th grade, we had to take a round of electives, and one of those sequences of electives for 6 weeks was agriculture. Probably the worst class I ever had in my school career. I was pretty good in school, but not in that class. And one of our projects, our primary project for that agriculture class, was to prune a bonsai tree. Only it didn't come looking like a bonsai tree. You get that beautiful image of those perfect little juniper bonsais, kind of like this one that you can find on Amazon here. And I actually thought about buying this one just to see if I could do it again. And I thought, if it came looking just like this, I might be okay. But I just wasn't sure I wanted to take the risk because I was afraid it might come looking a little more ragged, that you might have to trim it to be in that shape, because being with live plants, you can't always guarantee they're going to look exactly like they do in this picture. But we got something that looked more like this, sort of that full mini Japanese garden juniper. And our assignment over the weeks was to trim it and to wire it and to get it down into that perfect little bonsai shape. Not so much. Every branch you cut makes it uneven. And then you try to even it out and you find that it's uneven on the other side. Truth be told, I have the same problem out front with the plants and the hedges. Try to start rounding off those big hedge bushes, trim nice, get it even, and then it looks uneven on the other side. And you trim too much here and it's uneven there. And you just, by the time, I remember back in 7th grade with that bonsai, that juniper, by the time you got it down to where it was looking close, there was hardly anything left. And you'd trim just a little bit more and you'd cut off too much, and that would be the end of it. I don't think I ended up with a bonsai as much as just a windy little branch with barely anything left on it. But thinking back on that experience now and thinking about the scriptures about pruning, it's a reminder that we're not the ones called to be the pruners. We're not the vine dressers. We're the branches. We're the ones to be pruned. Because you see, when we try to do the pruning, oftentimes we mess up. We cut off way too much or way too little. We get it uneven all the time. We might cut off the wrong branches. We're not real good at that job when it comes to pruning in the kingdom. Now, some are far better when it comes to pruning grapevines or hedges than I am, but no matter how good we might be in the garden, when it comes to pruning for the kingdom, when it comes to pruning our hearts and lives, that's another ballgame. The Apostle Paul writes in Corinthians that even he wasn't able to judge himself, because although he thought in his own eyes that he was about as righteous as he could be, he knew that God's judgment went deeper than even what he knew, that God knew him better than he knew himself, that God knows where those dead branches are, or those dying branches are, that we may not have even noticed, that God knows exactly what needs to be pruned and what needs to be trimmed back. The same in the church, that God knows those who need to be pruned, those who need to be trimmed, those who might even need to be cut off. And sometimes when that happens, as painful as it is, as much as we don't want to lose branches, there's a sense in which when those unhealthy branches are cut off, the church grows. When those unhealthy branches in our lives are cut off, as painful as it is to lose those things, we tend to grow more. It's not an easy process. And it's even harder to submit ourselves to the process as a branch. We want to be the ones in control. We want to be doing the cutting. We want to decide which branches are good and which branches are not. We want to decide which branches we want to keep and how that final shape is going to look. The final shape of our church, the final shape of our lives, the final shape of the kingdom. We want it to kind of look the way we think it should look and shape it the way we might try to shape that bonsai tree. But no matter how hard we try, it just never seems to come out even. Now here's something interesting. Just the other day, I was out at a Sabbath retreat, a half-day retreat, and standing outside and looking up at the trees, the big scrub pines, a few little branches left, and I saw this. And I was struck by the fact that it looked an awful lot like a really large bonsai. And it was formed so much more perfectly than I could ever do. Formed by years and years and years of enduring the weather and the seasons, of growing and of branches falling off and new shoots growing out. And here it is. The perfect tree. If you could shrink this down to miniature form, anybody would buy it to put on their desk. And yet, how many years did it take God to grow that perfect tree? And so I don't know what needs to be pruned in your life right now. But I know this. God is the only one we can trust with the pruning shears. Let's stop trying to cut each other off. Let's stop trying to trim things to make it look the way we want it to look. It's not about that. It's about the health of the whole vine. And we are merely branches. And so will we submit ourselves to the gardener, to the vine dresser, to the one who can prune us and trim us in just the right places so that all of the unhealthy branches, all of the unnecessary pieces are cut away and all that remains is the perfect form and shape of the image of Jesus Christ. And so let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come and we ask you to prune our hearts and our lives, to prune our churches and to prune your kingdom in this world, to keep cutting away those unhealthy places, to keep cutting away the things that are unnecessary. Lord, there may even be some times when it seems like what you're cutting away is good, but maybe it's not good enough. Maybe you want us to stop putting so many nutrients and energy into those good things and transfer it into the things of God, the things that are even better, the higher things, the fruit of the Spirit, not just the fruit that we want to produce. So Lord, help us to put down our pruning shears. Help us to stop trying to control how the tree, how the vine looks in the end. And help us simply to surrender ourselves, that you might fashion us and prune us into whatever form you have for us. We give ourselves to you and we trust you with our lives now and forever. In Jesus' precious name.